Welcome to How to Do Drainage 101. First, you have to mark everything out, call Miss Utility, see where all your lines are. As you can see, we outlined it in white to go ahead and let Miss Utility know exactly where we're digging so they know where they're going to mark. We're going to run all these downspouts from the back to the front. On the right side of the house, you have to come right here between the pool. On the left side of the house, we're going to be doing the same thing, taking the downspouts under the sidewalk to a pop-up emitter right up in here. As you can see, we have it marked out again in white where we're actually connecting everything. Here's all the utilities. We're also going to be putting the sump pump here, tying it into the system as well, so you can see it doesn't end up looking all wet and soggy forever. And we're also going to tie in the back left downspout into it as well, and everything is going to run from the back of the house to the front of the house. Stay tuned for after it's dug. Now that we have the right side dug out, we had to go under the sidewalk. We're going to be putting pipe in here. There was a sprinkler system in the way, but we also do sprinklers, so that is no problem at all. We cut that out of the center. We're going to rerun it. Right now the drainage, we had to make it deeper over here because eventually they're going to be adding pavers extending out their driveway, so we'll make sure it doesn't mess with any of our drainage. There is the cable line that we found that did not break. And as you can see, the trench goes all the way to the other downspout. This is what it looks like. And as you see by the level, we are completely downhill. You only ever have to be within a 1/4 inch and 4 feet, but since we had more of the grade, we went ahead and made it all the way. So now there is no way that this water will not facilitate out the end at the pop-up. And now what we're going to do here as well is when we put the clean out in here for this particular customer, we're going to put the clean out with the Y facing this way, so that way he can go ahead and take his pool, and when he needs to pump out anything on the top, he can just throw it right in there and it'll drain right out to the street without making a mess of his yard. Now you see we have the right side of this house complete. I have the pop-up emitter. It's still going downhill. I had to go under the sidewalk, use one whole solid piece. You always want to use 4-inch solid PVC. The black stuff is no good. It crushes, it's cheaper, and you get what you pay for. But this is how it looks. Come down here, there's this clean out. It's just a nice little screw cap, which I would demonstrate how that works back here. From when I said this specific customer requested that I turn the Y and the back to the outside. Normally I wouldn't do that because of the, it looks weird, trip factor and everything else, but he wanted it here. So that way it's pool. So now this side is done. Unless you drain his pool or anything, just unscrews this, stick a hose in there, and everything will drain out to the front. And right here on the left side of their house, they have a sump pump that we're going to be tying into the drainage system. Now obviously you want to dry fit it beforehand, but afterwards, since it is a pressurized system, you have to use primer and glue. Otherwise it could blow off and mess up, and then it would leak and it would defeat the whole purpose of the system. After you primer and glue, this is what it will look like. All hooked up into the reducer from 1.5 to 4. Here's the left side of the house finished. 90 feet. All the way to the back, all run to the front, all downhill. This is the completion of it. Downspout, still got to put the clean out inside, which we glue those as well. Sump pump once again hooked into it as well. We are also redoing the sprinklers, adding zones, so there's a setup for all that over there as well. And that's it. Next one you'll see the drainage system in action. Now that we have the drainage complete, we are also installing a couple new zones for sprinkler. We had to replace the timer here because it was only set for 4 zones, and now they've added 2 more, so now we had to make a 6-zone sprinkler. We have down here, everything's going to hook up to the main. Go over here to our new valves, which we're going to have a valve box and cover on it. We got the trenches ran out. We have all the flags where the rotors and sprayers are going, so that way the homeowner can know afterwards because right now we have not turned the sprinkler system on yet for the turn-ons from last year's blowout. But as you can see where everything's going to go, we have our trenches going. They have a pool back here. They're going to be installing a fence. So right here we're stopping a little short until the fence is up, and then come back and actually put the heads exactly where they need to go.
All right, now what I'm doing is wiring the zone valves together. Each color represents a different zone. Get some wire nuts. Put them all together. This. Now all these are connected together. This stays up in the valve box. Like that. Make it nice and neat. Like that. Then we put the valve box on top of it and bury it all up.
All right, now the valve box is in. Everything is completed now. We just have to backfill. That's where the valve box is going to be. You can see now all the sprinklers are all hooked up. Everything's ready to go. So when we turn everything on, we'll be able to put the nozzles in. Make sure everything's spraying the correct direction. And that's it. Drainage system, sprinkler system installed. Last video was going to show the downspouts in action. Now for the drainage, to show how it works, we go ahead and stick the hose for this clean out and wait for it to pop up here at the end. As you can see, I took the top off of it and we already have the water down here. But since it's all the way downhill and it's like 100 feet, we have to wait for it to build up, and it's going to pop up. And since this thing is spring loaded here, it's going to push this up and release the water. And the why we like the spring ones, because also when it's down, you run your lawnmower over it, it won't get sucked up and break off, because you have to replace the entire 90 piece. You can't just buy the top piece separate. And that's exactly how the drainage works right there. When it has enough water pressure behind it, it builds up, opens up, releases the water. When the pressure is no longer there, because you have head pressure from all your downspouts, when all that runs out, it will just go back down, and there's a little hole in the bottom of the 90, so that way it can just slowly drain into the ground itself, and it doesn't just have stagnant water sitting in the pipe. And you always want to leave it a couple inches before the actual curb, so that way it filtrates and you don't have any other kind of debris or anything going straight into the street. It's just flat out water, and depending on where you are, you never break the curb to go through, because that is illegal. But this is how the drainage system works. From 100 feet all the way in the back of the house, all the way to the front.